My stepdad accused me of cheating, showed fake proof, and kicked me out. Mom and fiancé believed him, until my stepbrother called with the truth. Let me start by saying I appreciate your patience. This might be a bit long, but I need to get it out. When I was 15 years old, my dad passed away. It was one of those life-altering moments, the kind that carves out a permanent space inside you. He and my mom weren't exactly close anymore by that point. Their relationship had become distant and strained over the years, so while I was hit hard by his passing, my mother didn't seem nearly as shaken. She handled it with a kind of emotional detachment that felt cold to me at the time, though maybe it was just her way of coping. Still, it left me feeling somewhat alone in my grief. 2 years later, when I turned 17, I joined the military. Part of me did it out of a desire to serve, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't also a way to get some distance. From home, from the pain, from everything. During my first year away, my mom remarried. I wasn't there to witness the courtship or get to know the guy beforehand, so when I came back for visits, it was already a settled situation. I tried to be open-minded, but from the start, I just didn't click with him. We were very different people. Different values, different ways of dealing with stress or disagreement. He had a habit of brushing off emotional moments or any sign of vulnerability, often telling me to just man up anytime I voiced frustration or hurt. It wasn't just once, it became a pattern. That dismissive attitude grated on me. And to be fair, I wasn't always easy to deal with either. We had our share of arguments and clashes, but they never escalated too far. Still, the tension was always there, quietly simmering just beneath the surface. Eventually, I was medically discharged from the military after serving just under 5 years. It was a hard chapter to close, but I was ready to start a new one. My mom and stepdad told me I was welcome to move back in with them temporarily, just while I got back on my feet and searched for a job. I made it clear from the beginning that it would be short-term, and I even offered to pay rent to contribute, which they initially declined. But then, about 3 days after I moved in, my stepdad pulled me aside when my mom wasn't around. In a quiet, almost conspiratorial tone, he asked me what I thought would be a fair amount for rent. I was taken aback. It was unexpected, especially considering they'd already told me I didn't need to pay. But I figured, his house, his rules. I didn't want to cause any drama, so I agreed to a number we both found reasonable. I also made the choice not to bring it up with my mom, assuming he had his reasons for keeping it between us. Maybe he didn't want her to know, or maybe he just didn't think it was worth discussing. Either way, I kept it quiet. Throughout my time living there, I never asked them for help. Not out of stubbornness or pride, but because I wanted to build something of my own, on my own terms. I didn't feel entitled to anything, and I didn't expect handouts. I just wanted to be self-reliant. Now here's where things get complicated. My stepdad had a son from a previous marriage. He was about a year younger than me, and while we didn't have much in common, we got along well enough. No real issues between us, just very different people. But the disparity in how we were treated didn't go unnoticed. His son had almost everything taken care of. His schooling? Paid for. His car? Covered. His housing, even into adulthood? Still taken care of by them. They gave him a lot of support, and while I don't begrudge him for that, every parent wants to help their child, it stung a little. I wasn't bitter about not receiving the same treatment. I truly didn't want to be dependent. But it did feel off. I had just come home from years of service trying to restart my life, and the first significant conversation I had with my stepdad was about rent. Meanwhile, his son never had to worry about any of that. It wasn't about the money. It was about the message it sent, the difference in value, the unspoken favoritism. It felt like I was treated as a guest with an expiration date, while his son was the rightful resident, someone worth investing in. And even though I never said anything at the time, that quiet imbalance stuck with me. I tried to push past it. I focused on finding work, saving money, and preparing for the next chapter of my life. But I never forgot how that chapter began, not with warmth or celebration for my return, but with a whispered conversation about how much I should pay to stay in the house I was supposedly welcomed into. Looking back, I realized that kind of treatment leaves its mark. Not in big, explosive moments, but in those small, subtle shifts in how you're made to feel. Like you're a burden. Like you don't fully belong. And no matter how strong or independent you try to be, those things have a way of sitting with you. After about 3 months of being back home, I moved out. It was time. I wanted my own space, and I needed to keep moving forward. Not long after that, something unexpected and wonderful happened. I met a girl. From the moment we started talking, I was completely taken with her. It was my first real relationship, and I was completely swept up in it. That early relationship glowed. Ours didn't fade. It just stayed warm and steady, and I couldn't believe how lucky I felt every day we were together. As things got more serious between us, I started to worry about introducing her to my mom. My mother and I had always been close. In many ways, she was the person I confided in the most. But that closeness also came with a fear. I worried she might be overly critical or judgmental of the girl I was falling in love with. I had built up the moment in my mind so much that by the time it came, I was a nervous wreck. But to my relief, and honestly my surprise, the meeting went incredibly well. Better than I could have hoped. They hit it off right away. My girlfriend doesn't really have a family of her own. That's a long and difficult story she carries with strength. And to see my mom and stepdad welcome her in with open arms meant everything. My girlfriend and my mom bonded so deeply that they began spending time together on their own, meeting for lunch, texting back and forth. It felt natural, not forced or polite, but real. Watching that relationship grow made me unbelievably happy. Even my stepdad, who had always been a bit of a rough presence in my life, really seemed to like her. And more than that, his openness toward her brought him and me closer. For the first time, I felt like we were finding common ground, not just tolerance but maybe even something resembling a real connection. I hadn't realized how much I wanted that until it began to happen. I'd always respected him in certain ways despite our clashes. I knew his background, how his own father had abandoned the family when he was a kid, how he put himself through school, and built a successful career on his own. That kind of determination, that grit, I admired deeply. And seeing him open up to my girlfriend, and indirectly to me, made me believe we could actually forge a better relationship than we'd ever had before. About a year into the relationship, I knew, this was it. She was the one I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. There was no hesitation, no lingering doubt. I told my mom and stepdad, and they seemed genuinely thrilled. By that point, she already felt like part of the family. My mom, in a moment that completely floored me, gave me the engagement ring my father had once given her. She had kept it all these years, tucked away, and now she wanted me to have it. At the time, the job I had didn't pay much. I knew I wouldn't be able to afford anything extravagant, but I also knew I didn't want to wait. That ring meant something, not just sentimentally but symbolically. It was a piece of my family's history, and it represented love that had existed before us. I figured maybe someday I'd buy her another one, something new. But when I proposed, she looked at the ring and smiled through tears. She told me it wasn't a placeholder at all. She loved it. That moment, simple and honest, was one of the happiest of my entire life. Soon after, we started planning the wedding. It was exciting, surreal, and a little overwhelming, but mostly it felt like everything was falling into place. Then something happened that truly touched me. For the first time in my life, my mom and stepdad offered to help financially. They said they wanted to contribute to the wedding costs. That gesture meant more to me than they probably realized. After so many years of trying to stand on my own, trying not to ask for anything, their offer felt like an acknowledgement, a bridge being built. It wasn't just about the money, it was about being seen and supported, maybe even truly accepted. For the first time, it felt like I had a real family unit around me. My girlfriend, my mom, my stepdad, all connected in a way that gave me peace. I felt like everything I'd been through had led me here, to this moment where hope was stronger than the past, and love was louder than anything else. About 3 months later, everything fell apart, and it happened so suddenly, it felt like the floor vanished beneath me. I got a call from my stepdad one evening. His voice was clipped, serious. He told me I needed to come over. He didn't explain why, but there was something in his tone, cold, hard, that sent a chill through me. I had a sinking feeling in my gut the entire drive over. I kept thinking, did something happen to my mom? Is someone hurt? When I walked in, I saw my mom, stepdad, stepbrother, and my fiancé all seated in the living room. My fiancé was on the couch, her face streaked with tears, eyes red and puffy. The sight of her like that immediately sent me into a panic. I thought someone had died. I moved toward her instinctively, about to sit beside her to ask what was wrong, but my stepdad stepped between us and stopped me. That's when he hit me with it. Out of nowhere, he started accusing me of cheating, not just once but repeatedly for the entirety of my relationship with her. I was blindsided, confused, stunned. I looked around the room hoping someone else would say, "This is a mistake." But no one did. He told me a woman had contacted my fiancé, claiming that she and I had been sleeping together for over a year. She said she hadn't known I was in a committed relationship and once she found out, felt compelled to come clean. To make matters worse, she had somehow obtained my fiancé's phone number and sent her screenshots of supposed conversations between us. The messages were fake, but the details this woman knew, personal details about my life, made the whole thing look painfully believable. I stood there in total disbelief. I tried to speak, tried to explain that I didn't even talk to women I wasn't related to, outside of my fiancé. I begged them all to let me show them my phone. I pleaded, just look, please. I have nothing to hide. But no one wanted to hear it. My mom and my fiancé were both sobbing. My own heart was breaking in my chest, not just because I was being accused of something I didn't do, but because I could see in their faces that they believed it. Then came the final blow. My stepdad called me every foul name he could muster, his face twisted in disgust. And before I could say another word, he forced me out of the house, told me that if I ever showed up again, he'd call the police. The weeks that followed were some of the darkest of my life. I tried everything to reach my fiancé. I texted, I called, I left voicemails. I messaged her on every platform I could think of, hoping just to get one chance, one conversation to explain myself. But all I got was silence. Then weeks later, my phone rang. It was my stepdad again. His message was short and cruel. Stop trying to contact her and don't come near his family again. That word, his, cut deep. As if I'd never been part of it to begin with. I tried to reach my mom next. Surely she would listen to me. But she didn't pick up. She didn't call back. And after about a month of total silence, all I received from her was a single cold text. "I'm so sad and disappointed in you." That was it. From there, I was shut out completely. My mom didn't have much family of her own, so holidays were always spent with my stepdad's side. Now, they too wanted nothing to do with me. I watched from a distance as they posted their smiling holiday photos online. Everyone gathered around the tree, my ex-fiancé among them, looking happy. Or at least at peace. It was like I had been erased from their lives. The only people who didn't cut me off were my late father's brother and his family. Even then, things were different, quieter. I could sense they were unsure, hesitant. Only my uncle, my dad's brother, truly stood by me. He believed me. He listened. He never questioned my side of the story. I don't think I would have made it through that time without him. In many ways, he stepped into the role of the father I had lost years ago. His support was unwavering, and he reminded me what unconditional love actually looks like. I'll never stop being grateful to him for that. In the end, what hurt most wasn't the accusations. It was how quickly the people I loved, the ones I trusted most, turned away from me. Without asking questions. Without giving me a chance. They weren't just willing to believe the worst, they were eager to. And that's a kind of heartbreak that doesn't heal easily. About 6 months after everything had imploded, I packed my life up and left the East Coast. I moved out to California, not for some romantic fresh start, but because I needed distance. Physical, emotional, mental, all of it. The farther I was from that life, the easier it felt to breathe. Almost a year passed. I'd settled into a new rhythm, quieter and lonelier than before, but peaceful in its own way. I hadn't heard much from back home in that time, certainly not from anyone I once considered family. So when a call came in from a familiar area code, I hesitated. It was a number I didn't recognize, but it immediately triggered something in my gut. Against better judgment, I picked up. It was my stepbrother. The second I heard his voice, I hung up. My heart was pounding. I didn't want to open that door. But when he called again later that night, I didn't decline the call. Something about it lingered with me all day. I had told myself, if he calls back, I'll answer. So I did. The conversation was awkward, stiff and cautious, like we were both walking barefoot over broken glass. He started slow, saying he wasn't sure if I'd even hear him out. Then he told me something I never expected to hear. He said my ex-fiancée had been devastated after everything fell apart. That it took her almost a year to even consider dating again. That she had held on to the pain even after moving on. He didn't know I hadn't dated at all since. Then he dropped the bomb. A few months into her trying to move on, my stepdad encouraged my stepbrother to ask her out. Yes. My stepdad encouraged his own son to date my ex-fiancée, the woman I had planned to marry. Apparently they went out a few times, but things never really sparked between them. It didn't click. My stepbrother told his dad that it didn't feel right, and what did my stepdad say? I didn't get rid of him for nothing. She's a great girl. You need to figure it out with her. Hearing that, it hit me like a freight train. I felt physically sick. My legs gave out and all I could feel was white-hot fury. That one sentence told me everything I needed to know. My stepdad engineered the entire betrayal, not out of concern, not out of some misunderstanding, but as a calculated move to manipulate the people around him and remove me from the picture. It gets worse. Apparently, my stepdad recruited some woman, I still don't know who, to pretend to be someone I was having an affair with. She contacted my fiancé directly, feeding her lies and fabricated screenshots of conversations between us. She even included personal details to make it all seem more legitimate. That was the beginning of the end. My stepbrother said he learned about all of this a month ago. He had kept it to himself, unsure what to do. But it had been eating him alive. He couldn't sit on it anymore. He called me first, not to ask for forgiveness but as a courtesy. He wanted me to know he planned to tell both my mom and my ex-fiancée the next day. He wanted to know what I wanted him to say about me. I asked him to wait. I told him where I was now and asked for a little time, just enough to wrap my head around everything. I didn't want my phone to start blowing up with guilt, tears, or apologies before I could even process what he'd just told me. A week later, I texted him back and said I was ready. If they wanted to talk, they could call me tomorrow. I still don't know what I'm going to say, or what they'll say. I imagine there will be tears. Maybe some apologies. Maybe some excuses. But I honestly don't know if I'm ready to forgive, or even want to. The only person I've told so far is my uncle, the same man who's been my anchor through all of this. I asked him to keep it between us for now. He's the only one I trust unconditionally. And yeah, my therapist picked a hell of a week to go on vacation, so this is me venting into the void. Thank you to everyone reading this for listening. Sorry for the delay getting this update out. Work was hectic today and obviously my mind's been pulled in a dozen different directions. My stepbrother called this morning and finally filled me in on exactly what happened over the past week. Turns out, what my stepfather said to him wasn't quite what I was originally told. He apparently never explicitly confessed to what he did. Instead, he played word games, heavily implying everything while stopping just short of actually incriminating himself. Cowardly but calculated. The kind of thing someone says when they know they're in the wrong but think they're too clever to be caught. Now here's where my stepbrother surprised me. He's a lot sharper than I gave him credit for, smarter than I am, honestly. Instead of running straight to my mom and my ex-fiancée and blowing everything up in some chaotic shouting match, he took a different route. One I never would have even thought of. He got a hold of my ex's phone and began digging. He traced everything back and managed to find the girl, the one who made the fake cheating accusation. Said it took him a long time and a lot of digital backtracking, but eventually he figured it out. He called her and arranged to meet in a public place. That's where it all came to light. Turns out she was a Tinder match with my stepdad. Yeah. That alone tells you most of what you need to know, that he was almost certainly cheating on my mom. Whether they actually slept together or not isn't even the point to me. It's the betrayal, the secrecy, the disrespect, across the board. According to her, they never slept together. Honestly, I don't care, because what she did was still catastrophic. My stepdad paid her $1,000 to make one phone call. That was the deal. He fed her the story, gave her screenshots he had fabricated, and told her exactly what to say. And she did it. She knew what she was doing. There's no way she didn't understand the gravity of it. But here's the twist. When my stepbrother met with her and told her what had actually happened, how it had destroyed my relationship, alienated me from my family, and sent me halfway across the country, something must have clicked. Maybe guilt finally hit her. Maybe hearing it out loud face to face made it real. Whatever the reason, she agreed to come clean. She told my stepbrother she would tell the truth, for free. He even offered to pay her again, but she declined. So yesterday she met with my mom and my ex-fiancé, while my stepfather was out of town on a business trip. It was just the four of them, my mom, my ex, my stepbrother, and this girl. And right there in my parents' house she laid everything out. The money, the lies, the plan, the truth. According to my stepbrother, the moment she finished talking, the room broke. All three of them, my mother, my ex, and even my stepbrother, started crying. He said it was like the dam finally burst. All the grief, confusion, and guilt that had been bottled up for over a year came pouring out. Afterward, he told them that I was in California, that I knew the truth now, and that I'd reach out when I was ready. That was before I texted him last night. I'm still processing everything. The emotional whiplash of it all is unreal, going from being painted as the villain in everyone's story to having that illusion shattered in one brutal moment. It's almost too much to take in. I don't know what I'm going to say to them when the call finally comes. I imagine there will be apologies. Maybe tears. But I'm not rushing to any decision. Not on forgiveness, not on reconciliation, not on anything. Right now, I just need to sit with it. Until then, just taking it one breath at a time. Before I get into today's events, I want to give a little more backstory, not to excuse what happened, but maybe to help some of you understand why things unfolded the way they did. After my dad passed, my mom and I became inseparable. We were each other's anchor. But when I turned 16, I started drinking to try and dull the pain. That New Year's Eve, I told my mom we'd spend it together. Instead, I went out with friends, got drunk, and left her alone. She texted me that night, and I could feel the sadness pouring through her words. That was the moment things changed between us. I quit drinking that day and didn't touch it again until everything went to hell later. My mom is the kind of person who needs someone. I think when her love with my dad started to fade, I filled that emotional space. And when I eventually left home, my stepfather filled it. Not saying it's healthy, just that it was. As for my ex-fiancée, she never really had a family of her own. She'd been through rough, sometimes abusive relationships, but never spoke ill of her exes. I respected that a lot. Despite that history, she struggled with trust, especially because of the attention I would occasionally get from younger girls. I've got a bit of a boyish face, and though I never liked the cute label, I came to accept it. I've always been drawn to older women, which is why she, being just shy of 3 years older than me, caught my eye to begin with. But she'd sometimes ask why I wasn't with someone younger or prettier, like those girls who gave me attention. I always shut that down, always told her she was the only one I saw because it was the truth. I adored her. Again, none of this is an excuse for what they did, or how quickly they believed lies about me. But maybe it gives some context to the cracks that were already there, waiting for someone like my stepfather to exploit. After talking to my stepbrother and hearing the truth, he told me both my mom and my ex wanted to call me today. So I waited. And waited. By 3 p.m., doubt started creeping in. I even wondered if my stepbrother had made everything up just to mess with me. I texted him, asked if they were still planning on calling. That's when I remembered, I'd blocked both my mom and ex when I moved out west. Totally forgot. For whatever reason, I never blocked him. Maybe part of me didn't want to. I unblocked them. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was my mom. The first thing she said was, "You sound different." I almost hung up right then. It took everything I had just to respond with a flat, "Yeah." She broke down immediately, sobbing. I didn't feel what I expected. No anger, no relief, just the weight of it all settling on my chest. I felt the pain more than anything else. A year of silence, of exile, of being painted as someone I wasn't. She asked if I'd gotten her texts. I told her no, because I hadn't. She said she'd been trying to reach out for the past year. But if she truly wanted to find me, she could have. I stand by that. Maybe it's harsh, but it's also true. I told her I was open to maybe rebuilding something with time. She was grateful, and honestly, I could hear in her voice how broken she was. She told me she's already packing up essentials and leaving the house before my stepfather gets back from his business trip. Said she's filing for divorce immediately, and I believe her. For all her flaws, and there are many, she's never been one to take half measures. If she says she's walking away, she is. I won't lie, part of me wishes I could see his face when he comes back to an empty house. Let him sit in that silence he created. Let him feel what it's like to lose everything because of his own selfishness. After the call with my mom, my ex got on the phone. It was the same, tears, apologies, regret. But unlike my mom, I felt something more this time. Not forgiveness exactly, but maybe a deeper connection to the past we shared. I tried to remind her of all the times I told her I'd never cheat, of how much I loved her. I asked her to remember who I really was, not who I'd been made out to be. She broke down. And honestly, I'm glad. She should feel it. What happened wrecked my life for over a year. We talked for about half an hour, and for a minute I let myself believe there could still be something between us. I've told myself for so long that there never would be, that the damage was too deep, but those old feelings, they don't just vanish. Then she told me she still had the engagement ring. That hit me harder than I expected. I told her to give it to my mom, because it doesn't belong to either of us anymore. I could tell that crushed her. Selfishly, I wanted it to. I needed her to feel some of the weight I've been carrying. She asked if she could still call or text me. I said it was fine, but that she shouldn't expect a quick reply or a reply at all. She understood. I gave her the same boundaries I gave my mom. This will take time and there are no guarantees. I told her the chances of us having a future together were slim. She accepted that too. I finished the night talking to my stepbrother. Thanked him for everything, for telling the truth, for digging it up in the first place, for doing the right thing even though it meant going against his own father. He's helping my mom move her things out before my stepdad gets back from his trip. He said he's going to tell the rest of the family everything that happened. I don't really care what any of them think anymore. They made their choice when they believed lies over me. The only exception might be my stepdad's mother, the oldest person in the family. She still sent me a happy birthday and Merry Christmas last year. Maybe she's just too old to care about the drama, or maybe she believed in me deep down. Either way, I'll speak to her. Feels right. I'll be flying home the first week of March for my uncle's 60th birthday. It'll be the first time I've been back since moving to California. I'm planning to see my stepbrother while I'm there. I'm not against seeing my mom or my ex, but I've made it clear that I've got a lot of healing to do before anything more can happen, and so do they. If something big happens during that trip or after, I'll post another update. But for now, this feels like the end of this chapter. This is basically the only form of social media I still use. I've been offline for the past year for reasons I'm sure most of you can understand. I haven't seen the other stories like mine that folks have referenced, but if you know of any, I'd genuinely be interested. Drop the links or names. And if you've got questions, I'll do my best to answer. Thank you, all of you, for being here through this mess. Your support meant more than you know. Several days later, I got a call today from a number back home. I've deleted most of the numbers from people I'm no longer in contact with, so I didn't recognize it right away. I picked up. It was my stepfather. He said, "Hello," and I immediately hung up and blocked the number. I called my mom, ex-fiancé, and stepbrother right after to make sure everyone was okay. Thankfully, they're all safe and not anywhere near him. My mom is staying at a hotel he doesn't know about, and both my ex and brother are at their own places and say they feel safe and secure. He's not known to be violent, but still, better safe than sorry. My stepbrother told me that my stepdad got home this morning, realized my mom was gone, and called him. My brother laid everything out and told him not to contact any of us. Apparently, that didn't sit well because he called me around 3 p.m. Pacific. I didn't answer. About an hour later, I got a text from a different number that just said, "We need to talk." I'm assuming it's him again. I haven't responded and I don't plan to. The next day, I got a call from my stepfather's mother today. I still had her number saved because, as I mentioned earlier, she was one of the only people from that side of the family who continued to reach out over the past year, wishing me happy birthday, Merry Christmas, etc. At first, I worried it might be him using her phone trying to dig for info. But it wasn't. It was her. She was kind and compassionate, again. She apologized on behalf of the family and told me she hoped I was doing well. I thanked her and wished her the best too. Honestly, it's wild that someone like him came from someone like her. Hey everyone, sorry for the delay. Work has been busy and I just got home this past weekend. After sitting on that "we need to talk" message for a few days, curiosity got the better of me. I called the number back. Yes, I took the advice from a few of you and used a separate app to record it. As expected, it was my stepfather. I wish I could say the call gave me something valuable, but that would be disingenuous. The moment I heard his voice, my skin crawled. He opened with a fake friendly, "How are you?" and I immediately told him to cut the bullshit. He laughed. The whole conversation was around 3 minutes long and went nowhere. I asked him directly why he couldn't just let me be with her. His answer? "You weren't man enough. A woman like her would have been wasted on you." That hit harder than it should have. Especially because it showed just how little he knew about our relationship or about her. He's the type with a very traditional mindset, which is almost laughable given how modern and independent my ex is, financially successful, not interested in being a stay-at-home anything, always the one to initiate and plan when we were together. The irony is thick. I told him never to contact me again and hung up. Nothing more came of it. I flew home last week for my uncle's 60th birthday. The party was a good time, lots of family I hadn't seen in a while, all of them warm and supportive. None of them ever treated me badly after everything went down, so there's no resentment there. While I was home, I met up with my brother and arranged to see my mom and ex at his place on Wednesday night. It went about as expected, lots of tears and apologies. I had a hard time keeping it together too. I spoke with each of them individually. My mom has already filed for divorce, something I genuinely appreciate. Our conversation was still strained, but it's clear we're slowly starting to rebuild something. My brother and I had a good, much-needed talk in person. He apologized again, and I let him know I appreciated everything he's done to make things right. I can tell he feels the weight of it all, and I don't hold any grudges against him. My ex and I had the longest conversation. We actually stayed up most of the night talking. We've been speaking on the phone a fair bit the last couple weeks, and it felt good to just be around each other again. We're definitely different people after the time apart, but the connection is still there. Later in the night, the conversation turned serious. We talked openly about how much this all broke me, and how incredibly messed up everything had been. She told me she's been seeing a therapist and asked if I'd come with her to her next appointment on Thursday. I agreed. She's gone above and beyond the last few weeks, doing everything I could have asked, and more, to try and mend what was broken. So I went. The session was productive, and her therapist even thanked me afterward for coming. We stayed to talk a while longer, and I asked her if she'd like to go out Saturday night. She said yes. The date went really well. We had dinner, then hit up an arcade, something we used to do a lot when we were together. It was my first actual date in nearly a year and a half, and I honestly enjoyed it more than I thought I would. We went back to her place afterward and talked some more. We're going to have a deeper conversation this week before I head back to California. The distance will be a challenge, but maybe a helpful one. It'll keep things grounded and help us both avoid slipping into old patterns too easily. No promises, no rushing, just forward motion.